What do you think? Guess we're gonna do a live. Say hi. Hi. So, I'm behind on my publishing because I'm crazy. But anyways, I went to go on my site today and it's crashed for some reason. And so anyways, I don't know how to do live. I've never done this before. And I don't know if anybody's gonna pay attention. My kids are running around outside. And they're playing with our neighborhood friends. So that's fun. So, I have lots to say about how the podcast is going and my ideas and the things that I'd like to do with it. Just getting started. And it's kind of interesting. It's crazy to think that today would be episode 70. And so it's like, you know, when I started out, I had no idea what episode 70 would be like, or that 70 episodes in, and I still feel like I'm really just getting started with all of this stuff. There's a lot to learn, and I have pretty slow learning curve, I guess, because I'm still trying to figure everything out. But I started out this journey talking about family culture because when I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints back in 2002 to 2004, I served my mission in Hawaii. And there is a lot of cultural diversity there, and it's a beautiful, amazing place. And for part of my mission, I served at Brigham Young University, Hawaii. And so when I was there, there's just people from all over the world there. And it's an interesting situation there because there's just a lot of intercultural marriages and families, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And I served there, and I didn't know a lot about all of this stuff, about relationships and about marriage and intercultural, whatever. I just thought it was awesome, Well, this one day, my companion and I, we went to a dinner appointment, because when you're a church service missionary ministering to people there, wherever you serve, members often invite you into their home and serve you meals and stuff. So we went to this dinner appointment with, can you guys hear me? I hope you can hear me. We went to this dinner appointment with this young married couple. They were students at BYU, and they were from 2 different countries, which, okay, I didn't think anything of that. But when we showed up at their house, there was clearly contention there. They were really struggling. And I don't know if their contention at that time was rooted in their cultural differences, or if it was just this situation, this experience that they had just had. They had come from a meeting on campus that I think was addressed to the entire student body, and it was given about they had actually been advised that they should avoid interracial marriage. And the crux of their conflict, what upset them the most, was that the person talking was in an interracial marriage. And so they just felt like this person was a total hypocrite. They're just like, who is this guy, and how can he tell us that this isn't okay when that's what he's done? And so they were really upset, and there was a lot of contention, and it was really hard because my companion and I were so, my companion was like the super sweet, most gentle person I've ever known, and she, yeah.
Hi, Chloe.
My kids are talking.
And And I asked if she wanted you to look at her leg because
we've got some problems here. So I'll have to come back and finish my story. Leave you hanging, I guess, if I can figure out how to exit this. Anyhow. Oh, I'm back. So, just a second. Whoa, is that noisy? We'll see how all of this goes, huh? So anyways, we didn't know what to do with this couple who were clearly having problems. Just for a little bit, okay? If it's okay with their nana. I had no idea what to do. Neither my companion and I had ever really experienced this kind of a relationship, so we didn't know what to do. We tried our best to share with them our thoughts about having hope and peace and the light of Christ and things like that. But we left their house just feeling really discouraged. And so I was really upset and discouraged about it.
outside. Can we really just put on a sweater and take
No, she needs to wear pants. It's chilly outside.
I really don't want to get a rain, but I have to.
So anyhow,
Cold out.
the next day, or whenever, I'm pretty sure it was the next day, I was sitting at the front gate of the Temple Visitor Center waiting to greet guests, and there was a senior missionary there sitting up there with me, and he was really good at dispensing wisdom, and he was really smart and wise. And I also knew that he was in an interracial couple. He was in an interracial marriage, and he's an older gentleman, so I knew he was making it happen. They figured something out. And so I asked him, I told him the situation, and I asked him, what does this mean? Like, how can we work this out? And, and I was also kind of selfish because I was like, what happens if I get married and, I fall in love with somebody from another country and how do we make our cultural differences work? But then I was also like, wait, it doesn't even matter. It could be somebody from down the street and we grew up in the same town. We still have different cultures because we come from different families, and just being a man and a woman, we have different cultures, and so we have to just figure out what that means for us, and so I asked him, what do you do? How do you figure out these cultural differences? And I'll never forget what he said, because he was very dynamic and he had this deep, gravelly voice, and he had a thick Tongan accent, and he was a really cool dude. So I asked him, what do you do? And he sliced his hand through the air and he said, you forget about your culture, where you come from. I was like, whoa, okay. And he's like, you forget about it and you adopt the church culture as your family culture, your new culture. I was like, all right, well, that makes sense. That made sense to me. It made sense to me at that time. I was like, yeah, of course, because in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have lots and lots of standards and guidelines that are intended to strengthen families. We have the proclamation to the world and the family, and we do family home evening every week where we take a night, and the purpose is to strengthen our family, where we come together and have a gospel discussion and do an activity and have refreshments and things like that. And, we also encouraged to have family prayers and family scripture study and family councils and all these things. So it made sense to me, right? I was like, okay, that makes sense. You just decide that you agree, or come together and agree that you're going to follow the gospel standards. Makes sense. So everything's supposed to be all good from then, right? Well, this is what I've been learning from my experience and my journey over the last, this is 14 years? No. Yeah. No, what? How many years have I been married? I don't even remember. 2005. This will be 14 years. Yeah. And, you know, there's a lot that I've learned on this journey. That coming together to agree on your standards is only the beginning. That there's so much more to it. That when you want to have a thriving and successful family culture, there's more to it than just coming together to agree on your standards and the activities that you want to do, or, you know, anything like that. It's just the beginning. And so, I mean, at the time it was like, all right, so I just need to find a righteous young man that's active in the church, and we'll hit it off, right? Like, that's even something that I think somebody had even told me, was like, two people that are active in the church can come together and get married and have a successful family, right? Well, I have my doubts, but anyways, because okay, so Michael and I got married shortly after our missions, and so I thought, hey, we got this figured out, because, you know, we both are active in the church, we both have the same basic socioeconomic background, and so we're good, right? And so we got married, we started, you know, trying to figure out what to do from there. Because the reality is, so there's like this conveyor belt of life that we're told, hey, if you do this, that, and the other, then you check off all these boxes, then you'll be successful, right? And that conveyor belt, if you aren't able to check off all those boxes, it just kind of drops you off in the middle of nowhere. And so that's kind of what happened with our family, with Michael and I. We got married, we went to school, right? Because that's one of those check marks on that box. But we didn't really even know what we wanted to study. And that was a problem. If I'd known at that time that we could just stop and try to get experience or try to figure out what we're doing, that we could just stop. But we didn't think that was the right thing to do. We thought, you're supposed to check off this box, right? You're supposed to get the degree. But we didn't know we were going to study. And Michael started out, he was studying education, and then he's like, no, that's not right. So then he started. The story goes on that Michael changed up his major, I changed up my major. I mean, we were all over the place. And that's how our life together started out. And now that I've been, you know, in hindsight, and now that I've been learning a lot about family culture and about, you know, why we've felt so like confused and what's going on with our life, you know, I realize that it's not enough to come together and agree on your values. It's not enough. That's just the beginning. But that you also need to come together and get clear on your vision. So when Michael and I started out, we had our values and we had a solid relationship. We still have a solid relationship, and that's one of the blessings of our marriage, and one that I'm so grateful for, and know that Heavenly Father guided us to come together, knowing that we were right for each other. But in this process of figuring out who we are, we forgot or didn't realize or understand that we needed to also form a vision for where we wanted to go. And so that's what family culture is all about. It's about coming together to agree on your collective values and your collective vision. What are you going for? Because once you're clear on that vision, then it will determine all the other choices that you make going forward. we didn't have a vision. And so going forward, we were confused. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know where to go. We just, we wanted to check off all those boxes on that conveyor belt list. And we did. But then that conveyor belt dropped us off in the middle of a desert during the recession when there were no jobs. There was nothing for us to do the next step. And definitely not create a foundation of security for us, for ourselves, for our family. And so we just never really had a vision. And now we're trying to figure out how now to start in the middle of our marriage, of our family, to create a vision. And the hardest part about all of that is that now that we're so far into our struggle, we don't have all of the resources and the foundation of, when you start out, you have nothing, and in a good way, like when you talk to a kid who's like 20, 18, he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And you're going, well, dude, right now you have no debt, no obligations, and you have all of your life to decide what you're going to do. And even, at 25, 30, either if you have few obligations, that's a huge blessing. So anyways, in the middle of our journey is a really hard time to start, when it's harder to take the leap off of this conveyor belt, hand in hand with each other and our 4 children and all of our debt and all of our obligations and, all this stuff that we're going, wait, we've got to stick this out because we need to be able to provide for ourselves, And anyways, because our vision has changed. It's completely changed. We don't want to be on the conveyor belt at all. And we don't want to be in this scripted life at all. So where do we go from here? The reality is that I started this podcast because I'm on this journey along with you. And I want to be completely transparent. I want you to know that I'm learning along the way. And I never want to be one of those influencers that is like unreachable, unattainable, like it's these people that it's like, these influencers and marketers, you're going, who are these people? And, they keep saying, oh, I'm so this and that, I've gone through these struggles, but then they present this perfect front all the time. And they're just part of this marketing campaign to make you feel like you're not enough. And like you're not going to figure this stuff out unless you're like them and obviously, have all the looks and all of the money and all, whatever it is. On the other extreme, I don't want to be like one of these people that has given up and is clearly loose case or something. I don't want to be like these other parents that are just like, oh, my kids drive me to drink or whatever, because it's like, dude, that's not cool, But in fact, everything that I've been studying, everything that I've been trying to figure out is the fact that how much our family culture is influenced by the way that we cope, the way that the things that we default to. And that goes back to even these influencers and the way that they market to us and the things that we get addicted to. They're all designed to stimulate the chemicals in our brain that keep us coming back, that keep us wanting more. And so I want you to know about a course that I'm working on that I'll be finishing up that is about constructive coping, that we need to cleanse our brains of these chemicals that our vices are creating inside of our brains, because for the last 10 years, as Michael and I have been struggling through the different things that we've endured and the struggles, we've had our own vices. We've had these things, our vices are really cherry Coke and watching Psych and going out to dinner. I mean, those things sound really dumb, but we also, maybe sometimes spend too much time on our phones or, and these things are designed to be addictive, and that's the point. But over all of this time, it could have been a lot worse. And so my coping course is to talk about constructive ways to cope that are designed to give us a healthy dose of those chemicals in our brains that keep us from those unhealthy addictions. Coping mechanisms that are, about being creative and about being constructive and productive rather than doing things that are destructive and distracting all the time. And anyhow, so that's going to be coming out soon, and I'm excited about it because it's something that is going to change your perspective about coping and give you 30 coping strategies that will change the way you think about them. So that's what I'm working on right now, and I just always want to be approachable and to know that I'm going through all of these same struggles. When I was talking to my husband, to Michael, about this episode, and I was thinking about what I wanted to say and how I was like, I'm gonna just tell everybody how imperfect I am, and I'm like, it's totally like my Emmett speech, like from the Lego movie, when he's told he's this special and he's got the piece of resistance, and he goes to meet with all the other master builders, and they're like, all right, tell us a speech, and he's like, well, I'm not really smart, and I don't have any ideas, plus I'm not very creative, and they're just like, how is this guy supposed to lead us to defeat Lord Business, and so they all start to bail out and like, whatever, this guy doesn't know anything. And sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes I feel like Emmett and like, you know what? There is nothing special about me. I have a lot of faults. I have a lot of things that I'm dealing with. I'm overweight. My house is messy. My kids are crazy. And for the last 10 years, Michael and I have been really struggling with debt and depression and anxiety and all of these things and loneliness but I just want you to know that if I can figure all of this stuff out and I can save my family, then I know you can too. And I'm here to encourage you to get together with your family, define your vision and your values, because those things will define who you are, what you'll choose for your family, those things that are important to you. Because, there's like, say for example, your family has decided that, I'm going to give two extremes. So your family has decided that video games don't have any place in your family. So that if anybody ever tries to introduce video games to your family, that that's something that you don't do, and so you just say no. That's an example of like having clarity of your vision, because you have other things that are more important, and so you focus on those things that are more important. You feel like video games are a distraction. Then that that's your vision, and that's what you clearly have defined your values around that, and it helps you to shape your choices. On the other extreme, say your kid loves video games and they get really excited about it and they're totally invested in it. Then you sit down and you get clear about what your vision is about it. Okay, maybe you might say, what are our boundaries around it? Okay, that's one perspective about it. Or you might come together and say, is this really your passion? Are you really excited about it? If that's the case, let's map out where you're going to go with this. Because guess what? There are professional gamers. There are professional game designers. There are people who are in that industry and are really successful. And so if your kid loves that stuff, then maybe it's time to sit down and map out your vision for where you're going to go with it. Maybe there's a future for your child in that. I mean, my son, he's only 8, so he has a lot of time to think about this stuff, but he loves Legos. And there are people who are really successful in the Lego niche. They're making books, they're designing Lego patterns and selling them, and it's a real thing, and it can happen in our day and age. It can happen. So, just get really clear about what your vision is and then map it out. Figure it out. If your kid says he's really excited about science, then you go, okay, let's sit down and map out what it's going to take to accomplish your dreams. When I was growing up, I loved singing. And in hindsight, I really wish that somebody had sat down with me and said, okay, you're excited, you love to sing. What is it going to take? Okay, this school that you say you want to go to study music and singing, they require you to learn Italian and German and French, so maybe you should start studying those languages. Okay, I will do that. They also want you to have ear training, so start studying and practicing ear training. Okay, I'll do that. They want you to understand the different classical composers and know about them and study them and listen to them. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, so you have a clear vision, you know where you're going, then that starts to map out your destination and where you're going to go and the choices that you make. Because family culture is a vehicle that takes you towards your vision. And so when you're clear about that vision, then you have real navigational tools to get you to that vision. And you get in the vehicle and along the way, there might be detours. You got to sit down as a family, have family councils to talk about where you're going. But along that journey, you talk about it, you work it out, you figure it out, but you know where your ultimate end goal is. And that's what it takes. As I've gone through this journey and learning about family culture and talking with people, these influencers and authors, and I've just been learning so much about this, the importance of having this vision. And, the most influential one that I really appreciated was when I talked to Paul Schulte about, when he decided that he wanted to play basketball. He wanted to play wheelchair basketball from the time he was a really young kid. And so his dad would sit down with him and say, hey, son, what do you want to be doing in 20 years? Oh, I want to have a good job and be married and play basketball, Okay. And then he'd started from there, and his dad would walk him back 5 years at a time, say, okay, what should you be doing in 15 years then? What should you be doing in 10 years, in 5 years? What do you think you should be doing right now? I see you're playing video games, so what should you be doing today in order to get you to that goal that you have in 20 years? Oh, well, I guess I should do my homework, and I should practice my hoops. And, and his dad said, and how do you think you should treat your mom and sister if you say you want to be married someday? Oh, I guess I should be nice to them. I should take care of them and learn how to treat women. So that is my invitation to you to get clear on your vision, that it's more than just figuring out your values and standards and roles. It's very important to come together as a family and get clear on your vision. So that's my invitation to you. I would invite you to go to my website, but it's down for some reason. But it's homeandfamilyculture.com, and you can follow me on Instagram at Family Culture Podcast, and on Facebook, obviously, Family Culture Podcast. And this is the podcast about how families can come together to intentionally design their family culture, because every family has a culture, whether it's by default or by design. And so my invitation to you is to start working on your family culture by design. Be intentional, figure out your values and your vision. And be sure to go check out also my coping course that's coming out. You can sign up for the pre-sale of that at homeandfamilyculture.com/cope. Okay, I think I'm done, and I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoyed listening to this 2-part live video. And go back and listen to the first one if you missed the first part. Take care.